Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is yet another Tim May podcast. Jeremy, Birmingham, they keep putting me on the air. What's going on, man? I mean, how can you explain that? What's the phenomenon involved?
You know, Tim, you've brought it up to a number of guests in the last few weeks. So when do you know it's time to hang them up? And apparently, I don't know if you're asking them all that because you're trying to figure it out yourself, or
I am. I'm always looking for the meaning of life, man. Go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, hey, as long as you keep providing tasty morsels of info, people are going to keep wanting more.
Yeah, it's more of like, this is more of a discussion. I mean, some people get all wrapped up sometimes when I talk a little bit longer than they think I should. But I remind them it is the Tim May podcast, yep. Not the, hey, let's all listen. And by the way, every time I have guys like you and Spencer and, of course, awesome Austin Ward on, y'all all have nicknames. Every time I think of somebody, I try to give them a nickname. And, so far what I've come up for you is Ron Jeremy Schapp, Birmingham, Alabama. I mean, wow. That's kind of a triple header there, but that's a pretty good nickname when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, it kind of covers all the bases, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it'd also be a pretty crazy Wheel of Fortune puzzle for the before and after category. So, I mean, why not? But you know what, Tim, as someone who always gets accused of talking too much myself, I completely understand. And I tell people, you're watching my show, so I should be the one talking.
Yeah, exactly. Who you got to talk to? I'm going to talk to my grandson's picture back here, who I would like to, Owen Timothy May, named after me. And I don't know who Owen is, but that's what I call him because I don't want anybody calling him Tim. But I digress. Bottom line is it's another Tim May podcast. And my special guest for the day, by the way, is going to be Doran Grant, who was a cornerback on that 2014 Ohio State National Championship team, one of several cornerbacks who ended up getting drafted in the NFL, some of them still playing. And it's you and I are going to touch on after I'm done with Doran, Jeremy. But bottom line is, boy, you look back on that 2014 and 2015 roster, man, what just an all-star group, right?
That team was so unbelievably deep and talented. And the thing that was really interesting about it, Tim, was just how young they were. I mean, that team, if you obviously go back into the 60s and you look at the super sophomores of the Rex Kern era, and you see it. I mean, that entire national championship run was pretty much built on the back of the sophomore class, and that 2013 group that really changed the future of Ohio State football.
That's what I wanted. That's why I wanted to have you on this week because you can give some insight into that. Just this, in my opinion, continuing elevator rise, by Ohio State football in terms of recruiting, which is what it's all about. And but first I wanted to talk with Doran Grant because, he's back in town in Columbus and heading up a group that helps put aspiring college football players, meaning high school players of, youngsters growing up in front of, first helps them attain the skills that maybe will help them show out, and then helps them maybe get in front of a few scouts here and there, which will further their career. And, the guys who are looking for football talent are always changing their ways, aren't they, Jeremy? They're always looking for a way to find that hidden gem.
They are, and it's really not even so much about looking for ways to find them. It's about having a place for those kids to get seen, and especially right now in the world we're living in with COVID. I mean, all these kids around the country are desperate for any sort of opportunity to be noticed because the football season is not a guarantee anywhere. I mean, you got states around the country that are just starting up right now, some that are still holding off, like California. So a lot of these kids, these sort of camps, these sort of combine situations, like Doran is doing with the Raw Talent Group. That's a group that started in Northeast Ohio about a decade plus ago, and now he's obviously taken that to work it in Central Ohio. And it's helpful for kids anywhere to get just exposure, because at this point, that's the one thing you can't get enough of.
Absolutely, I agree. We'll talk about that a little more after we come back. But first, ladies and gentlemen, here's my little interview with Doran Grant. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I'm back with Doran Grant, former star at The Ohio State University. Has pursued an NFL career, a pro football career. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but Doran Grant, welcome to the Tim May podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Tim? Nice to be
here. Pretty good, man. How you doing? That's what everybody wants to know. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Transitioning out of the game of football, I'm going on to the other side of becoming an instructor and coach.
Gotcha. In other words, the guys that you used to hate to hear from, guys who were trying to coach you. Now you're trying to be one of those guys. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, something in that realm. I'm excited to actually get going and teaching these guys in Columbus.
I got you, man. Before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, he was part of the 2014 national championship team. He was one of the many cornerbacks on that roster that it went on to the NFL, got drafted, went on to the NFL to seek fame and fortune and stuff. But as he and I were talking about before we came on the air here, once you're part of a national championship team of any sort, you're part of a brotherhood that will never go away. And that's what you feel like too, right? Granted, that might be as great an achievement as you ever have in sports.
Oh yeah, seriously. You just go through so much. You accomplish a lot. You grow, you get older together. Going from boyhood to manhood. Those special bonds that continue to last. Like I talk to a few of those guys like every day, still. So it's an amazing thing to be a part of.
I was going to say, real quick before we move on, what stood out about as you look back on it now, from almost 7 years away, what was it that stood out about that team more than anything else? It kind of brings a smile to your face, besides getting to hold up a national championship trophy and stuff. But what just still brings a smile to your face about that group of men?
I mean, just the continuity. We were just so close. We were a close group. We did everything together. When it came to, from studies all the way to, just off the field. And of course, working out in the off season. And then of course the season, we just do so much together that even Coach Meyer had, always used to tell us like, this is the closest team he's ever been around. Yeah. And, it just makes sense for us to go all the way and win it all, because when you trust that guy next to you so much, I mean, anything can really happen.
What brought that about, do you think, as you look back on it? Why did that group develop that special bond? Because, let's face it, at one point in the season, you guys were 1-1, y'all had just lost to Virginia Tech. I mean, and you had to rebound quickly, et cetera. But what was it about that group that caused y'all to have that kind of bond, you think?
Well, I would say, one, we really never won anything to that point. So, like, especially our senior class, the class of, myself, Michael Bennett, Curtis Grant, Devin Smith and others, Evan Spencer, Jeff Hireman. And we never won anything. Like, we got there, we were 6-7, rookie, our freshman year. Sophomore year, we were ineligible due to the sanctions. Then junior year, we lost the Big Ten title against Michigan State. So I feel like that year, a lot of the guys on the team really wanted to do something and really wanted to, really express their gratitude to us. And we wanted it bad too.
Yeah.
And so even when we were 1-1 at the time after that Virginia Tech loss, we never doubted. We just never doubted each other. We just dug in more and just, went out and worked hard every week.
Well, I'll give you a secret. The reason y'all lost that Virginia Tech game is because that's one of the 3 games I ever missed covering Ohio State football back when I was a regular beat writer, dating all the way back to 1984. My son and my daughter, soon to be daughter-in-law, figured out they could get married that night, and I go, well, you know why? Because you know why the church is available? I mean, Ohio State was playing Virginia Tech. I'm surprised anybody showed up. I'm talking about at the wedding, but they did. But I digress. Grant, I wanted to get in with you because you're now the local director. I think it's local director of Raw Talent Sports here in Columbus, up off Dublin, East Dublin Granville Road, in North Columbus. And what's just brought you? What's been the allure there? Give people a little bit of background of what Raw Talent Sports is about and what caused you to get involved with it.
Yeah, well, Raw Talent Sports is a training program built for speed and agility training, but we specialize in we specialize in football techniques, football craft, football training, and just the teaching game. No, it's a true academy. Mark Harris is the CEO of it. Myself came from that program, started in the 8th grade and developed all the way through to Ohio State. Even throughout my professional and college ranks, I was still trained with him. Denzel Ward is also a guy who came through that same rank. Frank Clark, who just played in the 2nd Super Bowl yesterday out of University of Michigan, was also came out of Raw Talent Sports. And we have Shaq Washington, who was an Ohio Coach of the Year. He's in a Ringer honor at the University of Cincinnati as a wide receiver. Connor Cook, was also another guy out of there from Walsh, Jesuit High School, went on to play at Michigan State and did great things there. So it's just a lot of different guys who came out of there throughout the years. And the training program itself is built for the community, and it's built to build opportunities for, players to get exposure from college coaches and to actually get their skills trained up to where they need to be to go to the next level. And also for the more coaches.
Yeah, I was going to say, and like you said, it's not fly by night. It's been around for 16, 17 years up in the Cleveland area. And now y'all have opened in essence, an office, in the Columbus area. And
we also have one in Dallas too that just opened.
Yeah. Wow. You're in some hot spots there, by the way. But I mean, it paid off for you to be part of that. I'm not trying to do a commercial for this thing, but it obviously has paid dividends for people who've been involved. And that's why I wanted you on. Number one, what was it that you got most out of it, do you think, when you were going through it?
Well, when I was going through it, I'd say, again, those relationships. I still hold those relationships with those guys. And this, a lot of us went to the NFL, and it was just amazing to see that, transpire. But I would just say the investment Mark Harris had in the kids at a community. And that alone, you get a different feel because some of these kids don't have father figures, and some of these kids don't get, actually that true talk you should get. Kind of similar to what Urban Meyer would give to us, like during those college days. He'll give you real talk, and then he'll show you the product. He'll show you the product, and then he'll show you the results. And he's done it over and over and over again. And to me, it just really helped me think of becoming an athlete a different way. I've seen the business side very early on.
In other words, the investment involved, but also it basically laid a path out for you. You follow this path, you will have results, right? I mean, that's what Urban Meyer's preached a bunch of times. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you've done, and you know what I mean, and move from there.
Exactly.
Interesting, because I want to get into your football background, leading up to this. But I want to ask this: what is it about this that piques your interest? Is it just the working with the youth football players out there that you feel like you can impart some wisdom on them? Do you get a kick out of just teaching drills? What is it that just really gets you going?
Well, both of those, and an opportunity as well. I would definitely like to be a position coach one day to start off and get into the coaching ranks. I think this is a good way to start, just to be around kids at that similar age, becoming a college coach or a professional coach. Like I said, I really deal with the high school guys. Yeah. And really just try to, like I said, teach them the game. And what comes with that is an opportunity to be just another leadership role, in which I seem to thrive in over my lifetime from what I can see. And I would just like to continue that and continue to be around the game that I love.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's all about, no matter who you're dealing with, taking it up a notch, either mentally or physically, right? I mean, always trying to touch buttons. I mean, Urban Meyer, in my opinion, his greatest strength is he knows he figures out where most people's buttons are and then pushes them. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but he has a way of getting to you one way or the other, right? I mean, is that the best way?
He'll find his ways, and you gotta try to like figure him out. But and then you realize not necessarily just figure him out. You just realize that's his method to his madness, which is like, as he would say, is infallible. So again, no doubt, I don't think he's going to have a problem getting started down there in Jacksonville.
That's what I was going to ask you. That was my next. You heard my question coming out of my mouth before I asked it. You've got that's called precognition, I think. What kind of pro coach will he be? I mean, here's what I've been telling everybody. Clearly he hates to lose more than anything else. But he's smart enough to know you can go 10-6 in the NFL and make the playoffs. He's a smart guy. But how do you think he will deal with the occasional loss, if in fact that's the best way of putting it? Do you sense he will roll with the punches and figure out the way? What's your sense about him?
I think he will, and he really looked. He looked at Coach Bill Belichick a lot. Like, he would have quotes of Bill Belichick around the building, and he said, man, he's a good friend, and that's who he really would like to model his program after. Is the Patriot way. Yeah. And I can definitely see the similarities. Guys who who I played with in college has also told me when they played for Coach Belichick is very similar. The energy, the idea, the mental toughness that you have to walk in that building every day and continue to compete with nobody being held to a higher standard than anybody else. It's just everybody's even kill, and you have to touch that line. You have to touch it every day, and it's I think he's going to do a great job. I really do. Regardless if it's in the professional ranks, just his mindset is, like you said before. He's a very smart guy. He knows how to communicate to people, and he knows how to get people going.
Yeah, he does that.
Mm-hmm.
Those Patriot players, you have to reach a certain level. The quarterbacks, man, I think we've seen what level they've got to reach now, right?
Oh yeah, seriously.
The Patriots with or without Tom Brady. Wow, two different animals, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think nobody really saw that coming like that. But
are you amazed, Grant? Are you amazed by what?
It's just crazy that he
Tom
really.
Brady? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just crazy that he got it done. He left his first year. He leaves. He goes right back to the Super Bowl, and just like, well, wow, like you can't say it's not his efforts that's really helping that locker room for one, and definitely on the field. But yeah, it's just amazing.
You've prepared for games, et cetera, in the NFL. You've known quarterbacks. What sets him apart, in your opinion?
I'll just say his mental toughness and buying in. You can see him buying in, even from afar. You can see him buying in. Just if you look at his career, he's always a teammate guy. He's always in with the fellas. He doesn't mind. You always see videos of him being around the guys. You always see him dialoguing with the guys either through social media or whatever have you, and you can just tell that he really, really enjoys the process every single day and every single year of his career. You can just tell, and he's still going.
You personally got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, in the 4th round, 2015. Yeah. And you bounced around the league a little bit and stuff. Just give people a synopsis of your pro career, what you learned from maybe not being, that superstar like some guys end up being. I mean, just what'd you get out of it, I guess, is what I'm getting to. What lessons did you learn?
Yeah. Well, I learned that nothing's guaranteed. I thought I played pretty well through my time in the league on the spots that I played at, and especially through the preseason process. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
But even with that, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. You grow a lot, and you start to realize other things. Well, start to realize that you got to take your life in another path. And even with that, it was hard at first, but then you realize well, hey, this is life. You got to take on. You got to roll with the punches and keep moving. So I just hopped right into this role, and I directed Raw Talent Sports, and just looking for my next chapter, which would be being a coach at a high level Division I or professionally.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into that in a second. I want to ask you this though, because you got, pardon the expression, but you got cut by a lot of teams where you were almost there. You know what I mean? It was like you were talking about. I mean, good preseasons and stuff like that. What did you learn from those experiences of a guy telling you, we're just going to go another direction here, here, there, and the other, of just that interpersonal relationship, which is tough, when you got to tell a guy, you're pretty damn good, but you're not, for whatever one reason or another, we're going to go another direction. What did you learn from your side of that, that can carry you through?
Like I said before, that nothing's guaranteed, and you just have to roll with life, how it goes. I mean, just like you said, I played pretty well. Even my last preseason with the Chicago Bears, 2018, I was the highest rated defensive guy on their defense the whole preseason out of 5 games.
Yeah. And
but again, things are in place sometimes, and some things you just can't help. All you can do is go out. The only thing you can control is the way you play and the way you carry yourself. And I think I did that pretty well, and I can live with that. Yeah,
you were with Washington, in the XFL this past a year ago. Is that right? The XFL? Yeah. And all of a sudden your season was over. I mean, what was that like? I mean, and then you signed with Winnipeg of Canadian Football League, and then all of a sudden their season was over. So what did that help hasten this decision to kind of, or have you been planning this all along to kind of move into a different realm in your career?
No, I would definitely say that paced it. That definitely paced it because, that season XFL ended right right now. So I was like, okay, I understand. I understood the moment though with COVID and everything. And then when you sign on to another league and then they shut that down, I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting any younger. No, I just turned 28. So, and I know how this thing goes. So I just wanted to be prepared to give myself a chance to really transition properly. And I think I did that.
Hey, Doran, I'm not just saying this to blow smoke. Even when you're at Ohio State, there's guys I kind of watch a little bit, the little bit of interaction we have anymore. We used to have a lot more interaction with players, but you struck me as having that coach's demeanor or mentality about yourself. I mean, when we would have our conversations with you, with the media, sometimes 1-on-1, sometimes 20-on-1 and stuff. And as you look in the mirror, do you see a coach looking back at you, at this moment?
Yes, I really do. It's something that like I said, I've always maintained a leadership role, even as a player. Even with the coaches, I could tell they took to me. Yeah, even specifically when I got to Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, he actually pointed that out to me my first month as being a rookie. Like he said, man, I can just see the leadership qualities oozing out of you, and a lot of people are going to follow you, and and I kind of got that vibe my whole life, honestly. And so now moving on into this true adulthood and becoming a coach, on being on the blackboard side, I'm ready to take on those roles as well.
Yeah, I know. But one of the things that struck me too is, the guys I'm talking about, like Luke Fickell, for example, I told him that when he was a junior at Ohio State, I thought he had a chance to be a head coach one day. And just because you guys, what separates some of you guys when I see that in you is a detail. You have an attention or an orientation to detail that a lot of other players don't have. Some of them do, but I mean, you notice all the little things, don't you?
Yeah, I really do, because they matter. They matter, and you have to pay attention to those to really cultivate situations and cultivate greatness. You have to pay attention to it, and you have to understand and embrace those guidelines and really just go forward and be with the best you can be, and which for us is a championship ball club.
Hey, real quick before we go, who's somebody you're working with right now at Raw Talent Sports that you think is the next up and comer? Who's somebody you want to tout?
Honestly, I have a lot of younger guys who's going to be good in the future from the Dublin area. They're 8th graders. One kid's name is David White. He's really going to be pretty good. Right now he's playing running back, but who knows what he's going to grow into by the time he's a sophomore, which is 2 years away. I think that's going to be special. And also, I have a receiver named Tyrese Taylor from Whitehall High School, Whitehall Yearling High School. Excuse me. And he'll be a senior this fall. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but he has professional awareness when it comes to being on the field.
Yeah.
And we're just going to work on his footwork a little bit, but I think he has a chance. Like I said, this past weekend we had an exclusive workout. A few Division II schools were there, and they were touting and a lot of recruiting analysts, and they really took to him. They told me he was the best guy out there. He performed very well, very, 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 very good. And I really, really enjoyed that process of seeing the coaches really take to him. I'm like, okay, he has a shot. And this is a kid who didn't even think he had a chance, but he has a shot now.
Yeah, I was going to come to that thing, but my wife won't let me get out of it. Well, she lets me get out of the house if we need groceries. You know what I'm saying? But that vaccine's right around the corner for me, big man. I'm 66. In fact, it's next Tuesday. But I want to ask you this: that's part of one of the payoffs of this group you're with, Raw Talent Sports, is that the fact that you get these guys in front of people who can help them get to the next level, right? I mean, help them fulfill their dreams. I mean, that's got to be as rewarding as anything else.
It really is. It really is, just seeing how they working hard every week, every Sunday when we get after it. And then when these opportunities come for the exposure, they really perform, and they understand the moment. Some things we had to talk to about, I had to talk to them about that they didn't really understand at first, but they got it very quickly, especially when you can put it in front of them and see that this can happen. Yeah. I showed them my rings. I showed them highlight videos. We go over tape. We have weekly conversations, and it's because it's important. It's important, especially for a lot of these kids around here, and especially in the inner cities. It's important that they really see that and on as much as possible.
What can a cornerback tell a quarterback that
What
will
kind of
stick? What can a cornerback tell a
tell a
quarterback that, I mean, and that's not a setup question, because I've always believed that sometimes the best observer of how good a guy is across the line of scrimmage is the guy who's defending what that
no,
guy's doing.
no doubt.
What?
It's a true chess match, more so between the
Yeah.
defensive back and the quarterback, for sure. I would say you can play with your alignment, but I would say, what could I tell a quarterback is to, in what way?
Yeah.
Like something
In other words,
to make.
yeah. In other words, you understand. I think you understand from playing your side of the ball how they're trying to attack you
Yeah,
after you've been through a game or been through things. I would think that a quarterback having the idea in his, or an idea in his head of how they know how we're trying to attack them. So let's do something, a little bit different. Understand what they're trying to take away from me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Things like that. Like Amari Jenkins, I think you're working with him too, aren't you? The kid.
Oh yeah,
From
yeah.
WSO?
We had Amari. Yes, we had Amari Jenkins in this week. He just got out of his surgery, so now he was able to come out and he performed very well.
Yeah.
And he just got his Elite 11 regional invite.
Wow.
He had a pretty good. He had a 7-2 season last year at Dublin Scioto, and I'm looking forward to seeing him have a great season this fall and a great summer too on the camp circuit.
Yeah, but I mean, you can impart to an offensive guy how your tricks of your trade of how you tried to take away what they wanted to do, like wide receivers. I would think that's invaluable. I mean, to know what the guy across from you is trying to make you do or not let you do, right?
Oh yeah, and honestly, especially what I would say to a quarterback is that watch the feet, watch the DB's feet. Once you learn the foot techniques and the reasons why DBs do certain things, you can pretty much tell what they're going to do, and it's the good ones at defensive back who can hide that and then, jump on plays, and next thing you know, they're running down the sideline with the ball. So,
yeah, 5 years from now, you want to be an assistant coach on the college level, on the professional level? Do you want to be a head coach on the high school level, or maybe even the college level? What's your aspiration?
Well, I aspire to definitely be, starting a position coaching ranks, because I really want to get to be around the players on that personal level and really, lead a small group, and then definitely want to be a teacher. Like I said, being on that blackboard and really explaining the game and the way you should go about the game. Then, obviously progress to a defensive coordinator level, or, a special teams coordinator level, and then on to a position, head coaching ranks. And that's really what I want to do, professionally or college. I just like being around those level of guys, that type of atmosphere, and really, I think that's the way you can really push the envelope, especially mentally in this football game, and keep evolution going in this game.
Yeah,
being around the older guys.
Take guys that are really pretty good already and take them to another 3 or 4 levels, right? I mean, that's what. Yeah.
Because
the mind game.
It makes you. It just makes you think a little differently, and it makes you create a little differently too. Once you can see the game at optimal speed, you see the game at optimal speed, you can definitely cultivate different things to progress the game for in total.
Gotcha. I call it driving a big time race car, man. You don't drive a big time race car around the house. You drive it out on the track. You know what I mean? Where you can let it all hang out. Hey,
that's right.
Doran Grant, thanks for joining the Tim May podcast, man. It's been a slice. I really appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate you for having me.
Keep me updated. All right.
Yes, sir. Sure will.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, after that interview with Doran Grant and Jeremy. It's interesting, man, how these guys find these little niches, but to kind of maybe, for one of another term, maybe make a little bit of a living, but number two, keep their toes in the football water, right? I mean, it's invaluable what some of these young players can still impart on even younger players as they're coming up.
Well, it's part of the whole reason that these guys, especially kids from Ohio, choose to go to Ohio State, because it's an opportunity to build a legacy in the state of Ohio that lasts your entire life. And it's an opportunity to give back. And, I think it's always kind of fascinating to me, Tim, is that all these guys, like Doran is from Akron, they always come back to Columbus, and they make that sort of their home base for whatever business they're running and operation they're going to have moving forward. And I think that's pretty clear why the value of your name in Columbus once you leave Ohio State never, ever declines. As long as you stay out of like trouble with the law or whatever, you're pretty much always going to be welcomed and given opportunities in Columbus.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you're part of a national championship team, triple that, triple the effect. Whatever the effect was going to be on you, triple it. And you're right. I mean, that's what's, kind of you. I don't kind of unique. That's not even a correct term. It's either unique or it's not. But I think it's unique about Ohio State football is it is this huge metropolitan area, over 2 million now, I do believe, and the biggest game in town, without a doubt, is still Ohio State football. Will probably remain that way for quite some time. We'll see if the Blue Jackets win the Stanley Cup. Well, how that might change some things, but
I don't think it wouldn't change much. Let's be real. And I think it's one of the things Ohio State has done really remarkably well in the last 10 years, Tim, is that they've been able to market the Ohio State program as a very rare opportunity for kids, because there are college towns all over America. There are great college towns all over America, but there are really 3 or 4 college cities. And, if you look at even if you look out at like USC or UCLA, those are obviously in a huge city, but those cities don't run on college football. Austin, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, very rare to have cities that basically, if you played football there, you are royalty for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it is amazing. I remember Urban Meyer was making a presentation in front of a bunch of people way back his first year when he showed up at Ohio State, in 2012, and I was there to cover it. And he came over to me. He goes, he just wanted to he wanted to like reinforce. He goes, Tim, what is the metro population of this area? And I told him then it was like 1.8, 1.9 million. And then he got up and basically made that point that this is what makes Ohio State unique. It is, for want of another term, the NFL team in town. And a lot of these players understand that. And like you said, they stay out of trouble, keep their nose clean. They can take advantage of it. It is stunning, really, how many either make their home base in Ohio after their careers are done, or at least have a little bit of what I call a condo residence, right?
Yeah, they've got tentacles. You find guys; they always find a way to get their hand involved in some business in Columbus, because, like I said, just having your name on a business card that says, "Hey, I'm Doran Grant, former Ohio State national champion, and this is my football camp." Like, it changes things. I mean, you look at Anthony Schlegel, Lettermen Row's Anthony Schlegel, and the opportunity to be a part of something, and the difference that he, the business, the difference that he created, and always finds a way to bring it back to Columbus. And Bobby Carpenter, all these guys, they definitely realize that the value of Ohio State for them, and the reason why Ohio State does so well in recruiting, is that they've turned that away from being a tool and actually into being, a promise. I mean, it's not just a talking point. It's obvious and verifiable.
Yeah, obviously at lettermenrow.com, we've plumbed those depths. I mean, we've got a lot of great guys that we deal with on a weekly, daily basis. Like I had Donald Washington on a few months ago, and he was very interesting in what he's trying to get accomplished now in the next chapter of his life. But it's right here in Columbus, Ohio, where he's trying to get it done. So you're right. The parade continues. And speaking of parade, and that's kind of a tough segue, but really it kind of is a parade. Every recruiting session, it seems like Ohio State has a parade of new possible all-stars rolling into town. The 2021 class is no exception, right? And what I wanted to touch on, I was reading a little story by Josh Hemholt of Arrivals.com about the fact that the 10th time out of the last 11 years, Ohio State won the recruiting battle, at least by Rivals rankings in the Big Ten. And Jeremy, I see that, number one, as no surprise, and I really don't see that stopping anytime soon. Just what's your reaction, your take of that? Because no one probably covers recruiting better than you do as far as the pertaining to Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any reason for it to change anytime soon. The Buckeyes certainly, there's been opportunities, Tim, for this to fall through the cracks for the Buckeyes in the last 2 decades. It's not like the program has avoided every potential pratfall. They've had 3 different coaches. They've had NCAA scrutiny. They've had, PR issues with the Urban Meyer, Zach Smith stuff. I mean, it's not like it's a program that's been able to just sort of float along and not have issues. But what they've really proven is that the brand of Ohio State is so much bigger and stronger that they're actually able to withstand these things that have killed other programs. I mean, again, I'll go back to Texas. They're on their 4th coach in the last 10 years, and that program, Ohio State's on their third coach in the last 10 years, but the Buckeyes are still a top 2 or 3 program in the nation and not in a perpetual rebuild. So a lot of credit is due to Gene Smith, who I know a lot of people turned him into someone who likes to get beat up in the media for some reason because of 2012 and the misstep there. But other than that, Gene Smith has pretty much handled things glowingly for Ohio State in the last decade. And he's made the smart moves and the correct moves time after time.
I agree. I mean, and just, and I'll say, the word I would use is guts. It takes guts to hire Ryan Day as a successor to Urban Meyer, because not a lot of people, what's that old line that, Lou Holtz supposedly had? I don't want to be the guy that follows Woody Hayes. I wouldn't mind being the guy who follows the guy who follows Woody Hayes. It took it took insight, and then it took Gus to make that call to move Ryan Day up to his first head coaching job running Ohio State after Urban Meyer had built the program into what truly is a national program now, maybe even international when you think about the punters. But the bottom line is, and Ryan Day has shown a propensity to not only keeping on, but maybe raise it to another level. And I think his first 2 recruiting classes, but definitely this class shows that, correct?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, you can even go back to, speaking of those guts, look back at the decision to hand the program over to Luke Fickell as the interim coach in 2011. I mean, that sort of experience and the way that year went, you think might have scared someone off from hiring from within and promoting someone who'd never been a head coach before. But at a place like Ohio State, you really can't miss. And certainly Ryan Day was a home run hire by Urban Meyer back in 2017, and then by Gene Smith. But as far as Ryan as a recruiter, what makes him really different, and I said this to someone back in 2018, that he reminded me sort of this perfect little combination of Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. Is a guy that's extremely personable when you get an opportunity to sit down and talk to him away from football. He's a family guy. You can tell he's got the young, RJ's always around. The kids are always around. He comes across very, very relatable and normal. Then you do see the ability to flip that switch. And I believe that every great college football coach has to be a little bit bipolar. Like, I think you have to have an on-off switch. A lot of guys can't really control that on-off switch because the game starts to take over who they are. And it'll be interesting to me to watch really over the next handful of years if that transition happens for Ryan Day, if he starts to lose the ability to turn that switch on and off, or if the pressure at Ohio State can really drown people. It can be a suffocating experience. If you look back at the photos of Urban Meyer when he was hired in 2011, or Jim Tressel when he was hired in 2001, compared to how much they aged in that decade after. I think that's really the key for Ryan. As far as the way he interacts with kids and their families and prospects, I mean, it's obvious that he knows what he's doing in that respect. And I think in some way, Ohio State in the 2021 class was really benefited from the fact that they had the opportunity to really build relationships with kids and their families in one-on-one settings where Ryan Day could just sit down and talk to someone like this, because that's where I think he really shines as far as just who he is personally. Yep. He's extremely relatable.
Yeah. I'm curious as you are to see how this thing, as time develops, Ryan Day into that quintessential head football coach, how things will change with him a little bit. It's really funny. You brought up that example of before and after pictures was going on in my head about Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. John Cooper even said that to me. Tim, he told me near the end of his thing, he goes, Tim, you ought to run a picture of me before I took this job and after I took this job, because I think when he took the job, he was like 49, and when 48 or 49. And when he was done, he was like 61, 62. But it was the same way with Tressel, same way with Urban Meyer. I'm now 66. I showed you a before and after of me at 50 and me at 60. You'd see the same transition, because that's when a man really, all the burdens in life kind of get on his shoulders along with the aging process. But you're exactly right. I've always found it a marvel, like with Joe Paterno back in the day, with Woody Hayes back in the day, how you've had like 26, 28 classes or teams how you can even remember people's names. You know what I mean? Because, I call my sons and daughter by each other's names all the time, mistaken and stuff. But you're right. I think Ryan Day has staying power. I think Ryan Day, everybody keeps wanting to jump the ship with people's careers. This idea that he has the NFL in his gun sights, sooner rather than later and things like that. I don't think that's accurate, and for a lot of reasons. But I think he really enjoys being a college head football coach. Don't you get that sense from him too?
You do. I mean, and if you can enjoy being a college football coach right now in the way that this last 2 years is, I mean, look at the things that Ryan Day has had to endure in the time since he's been the head coach at Ohio State. It has been a nonstop, just parade of crap that he's had to deal with. And if he can find a way to still enjoy it through all this, I think that there's obviously a good reason to think that as waters settle, that maybe he'll even enjoy it more. But I agree. I don't think that he's itching to get back to the NFL. I mean, this is a guy who spent 4 years in 4 different places before heading back to the college level, and he's trying to raise young children, as we've already said. And I don't want to speak for the guy, but it seems like for right now, as long as his children are in Columbus and young and growing up, I think that there's a lot of value in that sort of stability. And I think that's why even, to veer off of Ryan Day, talk about someone like Brian Hartline, who, who people want to make, he's becoming a rising star in the coaching world. But again, he's got young children, and he's at home, living in a city that he knows and loves, in playing and coaching at a place where he played. And I don't know that there's, the desire to run off and do the vertical, ascension thing every single year for every person. I just don't think that's how everyone's wired. And I think that's one of the reasons why Ryan Day has chosen to have so many young coaches with young children, because you do get that sort of stability and that sort of family feel that Ohio State wants. I mean, Austin took a lot of heat on the internet last week when we were talking about the Parker Fleming hire, because the people are comparing it to Alabama. But I think the obvious and accurate comparison is Ohio State and Clemson, because the vibe that they're trying to put out is significantly different. Bama is not afraid to be a football factory. That is what they want to be known as. Ohio State may be a football factory, certainly are compared to other places around the country, but that is not the vibe they're trying to promote. And it's certainly not what the administrators and school president want them to be. They want to be a world-class institution of academics and want to be the best of both worlds. And Ohio State's done a great job with that. And the best of both worlds, I think, is why someone like Ryan Day is such a good fit.
Yeah, but make no mistake, Ryan Day wants to win a national championship without a doubt. That is it. That, I don't know if you call it his number one focus. That is the focus of the program, is to get to a national championship game again and win it. And maybe sooner rather than later. But you're right. The Parker Fleming hire, to me, as I explained it when I had Awesome Ward on last week, is, you've spent time with this guy. Whether this guy speaks the language you want him speaking to your players, to recruits, et cetera. I'm talking about Ryan Day with Parker Fleming. He knows this guy. Well, this idea that you've got to, every time there's an opening, you got to go out and hire, some superstar from, like Alex Grinch from Washington State. They brought him in. That didn't work at all in cahoots with Greg Schiano. That was, in my opinion, that was a failure. I don't know if you agree or not as you look back on it, but that pairing didn't work because Alex Grinch didn't really get to do the kind of coaching he wanted to do, et cetera. He's now at Oklahoma, but chemistry is a huge part of major college football programs anymore. Chemistry, and just the ability to get along, and I think that has a lot to do with why Ryan Day elevated Parker Fleming. Yeah,
I mean, it's not wrong to say that too many cooks in the kitchen ruin the meal. I mean, it's the thing about old cliches and adages is that generally they're true. And that's why they exist. And I think sometimes you need to be careful about how you go out and hire, because one bad apple can upset the whole orchard, or whatever that adage is. I'm terrible at colloquially, those things that people say.
I think the thing you were looking for there might be tree rust or something ruining.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Ruining the batch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really bad at all those things. But the
Yeah.
point is, I think that it's pretty clear Ohio State's goal and their interest is having guys around in the program that they feel comfortable with. And Alex Grinch is obviously a great coach. I mean, he didn't
Yes.
become what he became without being good at his job. He's from Ohio. You figure there's all these reasons that should have worked. But if you have too many people that are on the same level and not you're going to butt heads. And even if you go back to Luke Fickell and Everett Withers, I mean, that 2013 defense was pretty bad for a reason. And it's the same reason that 2018 defense was bad. It's because if you have two guys who have very different ideas and they're supposed to be working side by side, but their ideas are completely different, and neither one of them is excellent at communicating to the other why their idea is better. You just sort of have guys run around without a plan. And I've heard you talk about it a number of times, and we can talk about it about the 2020 defense. There's no reason in the world Ohio State's defense should ever be 122nd in the country against the pass or against the run or against any specific thing. That 2018 defense, and I'm not, as senior as you are, but I've watched Ohio State football for 40 years. I've never seen a defense that bad in my life. And then to see one 2 years later that was equally bad, but for different reasons, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah. We talk about the recruiting class rankings. That's how we got into this. But do they have the personnel on hand? And do they have you think the schemers on hand to fix that going into next year, next season, Jeremy?
I mean, I think they do. I think that it's pretty clear from watching the way that Ohio State handled the personnel this past season that there was a desire from Kerry Combs to play the guys that he knew and the guys that he trusted, because that's sort of the way you had to handle 2020 was the lack of, training camp, the lack of ability to get to know these young guys. I mean, Kerry came in last January and didn't get a chance to meet any of these kids really, and got one practice with them or two practices with them in the spring. And I think that there clearly is a focus on the recruiting side. There's 6 defensive backs in the class of 2021. They signed, Lathan Ransom and Ryan Watts and Legend Cavazos and Cameron Martinez and Court Williams in the class of 2020. I think getting a guy like Court Williams back is going to be so much more important than people know anything about, because they don't know anything about Court Williams. But he very likely was going to be the starting safety prior to tearing his ACL this preseason. So, you have guys out there that are talented and ready to step into the role. And, I think that some guys are going to be pushed. Jordan Hancock and Ja'Kalen Johnson are more likely than not going to be early contributors in the secondary. They have better instinct and cornerback skills than pretty much anyone on the current roster, in my opinion. And I personally am super high on Jansen Dunn, who's one of the 15 early enrollees in the class of 2021. I think athletically, he reminds me a little bit of Malik Hooker. That sort of just long, rangy, can really move, explosive athlete. He's a guy that, having the ability to play corner or safety, they're going to be able to move him around. And I think he's an exciting part of the future as well.
Sweet. Hey, what's the chances Ohio State lands? They're still recruiting at least one fellow for the 2021 class, JT Tuimoloau. How close did I come to that? JT Tuimoloau.
Here's the thing, Tim. I've been trying to say his name correctly for the last 6 months. I have just decided I'm just going to call him JTT from now on and stick with that.
There you go. I like that.
Where are the Buckeyes' chances? I mean, I think it's pretty clear that the kid has decided to hold off on his decision until April for a reason. And the reason for that is that he believes that that's when he's going to get an opportunity to see Ohio State in person. I don't know how that can be interpreted as a negative. I think that it's pretty clear that Ohio State is a program that he's seriously interested in and wants to visit. Otherwise, he would have made a decision in February. I do think that JTT is someone that's actually going to end up changing college football a little bit, aside from the fact that he's going to make his decision in April or even May and then end up on campus a month later. I don't think he's going to sign a letter of intent. I think that he's going to be a kid that sort of changes the way things work. I mean, there's a new era of college football coming and player empowerment. And when you have the number 1 ranked player in the country who's going to be able to kind of do whatever he wants to do, I think that it's going to change the way things go.
Dude, big changes are coming all across the board in college football the next couple of years. I mean, name, image, and likeness is going to change it. The ability to transfer once without a problem is going to be a big change. Buckle your seat belts, as I like to say, because no wonder Urban Meyer went to the NFL instead of college football again to reapply his coaching acumen, right?
No, I mean, I think that was pretty obviously a big part of that decision for Urban. It seemed like the itch to get back to coaching was there from the start. But you don't like, if you're a guy like him, and that's why I think it's going to be crazy to see how Alabama adjusts over these next few years, because someone like Nick Saban is not wired to handle all this stuff the way that it's coming. So it'll be interesting if Bama is able to stay as in control of things as they appear to be from a media standpoint down there. I mean, it seems like the media in Tuscaloosa is pretty easygoing with whatever Nick Saban wants to do. They seem to be okay with. And I guess we'll see if that changes, because there's going to be some weird opportunities for kids coming up to really, like you said, change the game.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, real quickly before we go, I touched on this during Super Bowl Sunday as I'm watching the game. And in a nutshell, give me 2 nutshell reasons why Antoine Winfield Jr. and Travis Kelce did not end up at Ohio State for one reason or another. Antoine Winfield Jr. still baffles me. I actually stood and interviewed him and his dad, Antoine Winfield, who pound for pound I still call the best defensive football player I ever covered at Ohio State. I'm talking about pound for pound and inch for inch. You know what I mean? If you look at his video at the Woodlands High School in Texas, I'm talking about his son, Antoine Winfield Jr. You saw a hell of a football player. And then you also saw a guy who was a little bit bigger than his dad, So I'm trying to figure out, for the life of me, why he didn't get maybe the respect, not just from Ohio State, but from almost across the nation when he was coming up and out on the recruiting cycle, but especially Ohio State. What do you remember about that?
I mean, I remember him camping in Columbus and him running a 4.32 at camp at Ohio State, and fully expecting an offer to happen for him that day. But Antoine, was, as you said, it's not like all the big boys around the country were knocking on his door. I mean, for whatever reason, he didn't gain traction nationally. You would have thought that coming to campus at Ohio State and running a 4.32 and displaying the ball skills that he did, combined with his father's legacy at Ohio State and the fact that he was obviously his father's son and a really great kid, there was it was surprising. But again, I mean, hell, Texas A&M, Texas, all these schools let him kind of walk. It was surprising. As far as Travis Kelce goes, I mean, I think he was like a 6'6", 250-pound tight end / offensive tackle prospect coming out of high school in where is he from? Cleveland Heights or something.
Yeah, I think
he was certainly not even a high level MAC prospect at the time. Cincinnati was looking at guys and seeing. I would imagine that coming out of high school, he was projected as a left tackle coming out. I mean, seems to me like a little bit like Eric Fisher, those guys that went to MAC schools, and you think that they're bigger tight ends, and so you figure you can make them into offensive linemen. That's what MAC schools are generally trying to do, because they can't recruit true left tackles. So they're trying to go out and find those tight ends that don't catch the football, and then some guys just develop late. Man, it's pretty crazy. But he was never sniffed. He was never sniffed by Ohio State. Hell, they let Jake Butt get out of Ohio. I mean,
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, Jake Butt. I mean, still one of the great guys I've ever met, man. I like, boy, did he have a tough road to hoe, staying for that extra year and suffering a knee injury and then suffering another knee injury when he got to the NFL and stuff, if I remember correctly. But what's interesting, though, the reason I only bring it up is, why not take a flyer on an Antoine Winfield Jr. just based on legacy, based on video, based on a 4.32 40 right in front of you? You know what I mean? Because I had Sam Hubbard on my podcast last week, and we talked about the fact that he was this rangy, almost skinny looking safety, at Moeller. And where he is now? He's playing defensive end in the National Football League. Was in my opinion, he wasn't on the level of the Bosa's in terms of production or Chase Young, but he was pretty close, at Ohio State. And he just kept growing and growing and growing, and I guess I was surprised that Ohio State didn't take a chance on Antoine Winfield Jr. when they didn't do it a long time ago, much less yesterday. You know what I mean? And I just never have gotten a clear answer on why they didn't. Matt Finkes claims to know the answer to that. I'm going to maybe have him on next week. We'll talk about that. But
yeah, I mean, it's weird.
Listen,
weird.
It's no indictment of Ohio. Ohio State's done a hell of a job recruiting. That's not the point. It's not saying they don't know what they're doing. To me, that was just a strange one. It was never clear to me.
It's not clear to me either. And if you look at that class of 2016 when Antoine Winfield Jr. came out, it's not like the Buckeyes. It's not like the class of 2017 where Ohio State had Jeff Okudah, Shaun Wade, Marcus Williamson, and Isaiah Pryor. All these other highly ranked guys. This was a class that had Jocelyn Wint, Rajay Burns, Wayne Davis. Like none of these guys ended up developing into anything at Ohio State.
Let me make a point. They already were taking some flyers on a few guys. Maybe that's why they didn't.
that could be it. I mean, at that point, you're obviously projecting out a few guys. You look at size and how that plays out long term, and how much you think. There's one thing I've gleaned from Ohio State over the years is that if they think someone's at their physical ceiling, that generally aren't as interested in them as someone that they think can keep developing. Watching that Super Bowl, it's crazy. You see Antoine Winfield Jr., you see Jamel Dean, who Ohio State believed could not play football after he enrolled early and was on campus and was told he was going to have to be medically retired. Carlton Davis, a former Ohio State commitment at corner in the same class as Jamel Dean. They're watching that the Buccaneers secondary, like, wow, that could have been a little different world.
Oh, yeah. How about Johnny Townsend, I think? Wasn't he the punter? Isn't he the punter for
No, I think that's Tommy Townsend for the Chiefs.
Oh, okay.
I thought the same thing. I was confused too, because the Chiefs. We haven't seen their punter this entire postseason. So when he came out for that first punt on Sunday, I was like, "Oh, is that Johnny Townsend too?" Because that was
me too. But, I know I had to look it up too, but it was pretty funny because I thought it was, and I remember that whole signing day situation where he ends up finally going to Florida, right? But It is what it is. Hey, man, that's what makes this interesting. Though, before we hang up here, Jeremy, is that recruiting definitely makes the world go round in college football. It decides how good you're going to be 3 years from now. Every class you sign decides how much of an edge you're going to have, and this idea that it doesn't matter at all, like you get from some people, in Wisconsin, I think is doing better at recruiting than it's ever done. But the bottom line is, if you're continually having to develop players, not just mentally and technically, but physically, that takes a toll on the whole program, and you'll see these ebbs and flows, for example, I've used great examples about like Minnesota in the past, and, Northwestern has these ebbs and flows because they have these couple of classes they put together, but the development comes in the fourth or fifth year, these guys all come together. But Ohio State, they want to be competitive every year, number one, but number two, they have to stay on the edge in the recruiting realm. Because if this class comes together like you think it is, 3 years from now, these guys, most of the good guys are going to be gone, right?
Yep. I mean, I think teams like Northwestern, Minnesota, et cetera, I view those as sort of like the Creightons of college basketball, okay? Because that they're not bringing in the highly ranked player every year, but what you're going to get is those guys all as seniors. You're going to get 25 seniors on a team. Where a place like Ohio State, you might get the best players every year, but you're constantly changing player possessions because, you're losing guys early, guys who will come in and expect to play, transfer, blah, blah, blah. So you're going to have teams that every couple of years, like you said, they're going to get way, way better because you're 22, 23-year-old men playing against the 18-year-olds of the world. And it's a little bit different. But I mean, here's an old adage that shouldn't surprise people. Now we're back on the old adage conversation. The best teams have the best players.
Yeah.
So anyone who believes that recruiting isn't important shouldn't watch sports. Now that doesn't mean you have to necessarily pay attention to it every single day. If you're a fan of Ohio State, you can rightfully assume the Buckeyes are going to sign a top 10 recruiting class every single year and not spend your time in February caring about it. I mean, I totally understand that perspective if that's what you want to do. But the best teams have the best players every year. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, though, how quickly in this transfer portal era, teams can fix themselves a little bit. Just Rutgers is a great example last season. Greg Schiano came in with a new attitude. Well, the same old attitude, but he brought it, to a new set of players, but also brought in a bunch of guys in the recruiting portal. And that team, yeah, they didn't win it all and didn't come close, but that was a definitely better football team than it was a year before, right?
No, without question. And it's changing when you talk about recruiting and the changing of the game. It's coming. I mean, I read an article on Monday morning that there were 400 less prep prospects signed this 21 class than there were in the previous. And if you're a college program and you're trying to quickly rebuild, you don't do that by signing guys that need 3 or 4 years to develop. So you do it by the transfer market and the free agent market that's coming in college football. You certainly seen a lot of teams, Miami, Rutgers, both definitely took big advantage of that. I expect Texas to be that kind of program this coming year. I think you're going to see Steve Sarkisian make a number of moves to quickly shore things up at Texas, and none of it will be done without any tampering, I'm sure. Yeah, everything's on the up and up. Nobody has conversations about kids or with kids when they're not already in the portal.
Well, his uncle said to his mother, said to the kid, blah blah blah. Hey, real quick, I asked Ryan Day about this the other day, but there's kind of like the number that you can have on scholarship this coming year, this program year, is sort of in flux, right? Because of the ability of last year not counting against anybody, if in fact they want to go that way. But how many scholarship guys you expect Ohio State to have on roster at the beginning of preseason camp?
I mean, I believe the expectation is that anyone who would have completed their eligibility is able to return if they want to. So you can have that many guys over the 85. So it's going to change from team to team. That being the case at Ohio State, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of guys. I mean, we've obviously seen Thayer Munford returning and Marcus Williamson returning. But other than that, nobody else was going to be outside of their eligibility. I think that there's guys like Elijah Gardner and Jalen Harris who people always want to ask about. But those two, I think, are pretty much – I mean, Elijah Gardner, I didn't see him on the field. Jalen Harris at least traveled still with the Buckeyes this past year, and he was on the sideline. Elijah Gardner is not, or was not. I don't know if he opted out. The Buckeyes didn't really publicize those sort of things. So I don't think that it's going to be a huge number. And to be quite honest, at a place like Ohio State, if you're a 5th or 6th year guy and you're not playing, they don't really care if you return.
Yeah, so that's why the three amigos were so remarkable. You know, I mean. Wow, you talk about parlaying into a 5th year. That was unbelievable. Hey, Jeremy Birmingham, wait a minute. Ron Jeremy Schapp, Birmingham, Alabama. Thanks for joining the Tim May podcast, man. It's been a slice.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Tim May podcast, God willing, and the creeks don't rise. That's another cliche, Jeremy.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, but until then, this is Tim May for Jeremy Birmingham. We'll see you then.